Hello and welcome. It's a good day to be on the farm. My name is Chuck and this is Calmsden episode 5.5. Now you might be asking yourself, why isn't this Calmsden episode 6? And that would be an excellent question. Because I've got this footage of me planting the rest of this giant field, which I'm going to do now that it has stopped raining. We're finishing off September. It's in the afternoon. We have already done a lot of work on this field, but in episode 6 I want to move on to working some of the other fields and doing some other things. So this has just been a long process of preparing these fields. So I thought I should maybe just take this footage and just make sort of an in-between episode. So I'm not calling it episode 6 just because there's not quite enough variety for me to think that this would qualify as an extra episode. To me, this is more of a, for those of you who want to see the entire process of getting this thing planted, I am doing that here. And what I'm actually doing is just, I believe, prepping the outsides of the field so that eventually I can have a worker do the middle of the field. But I can't actually remember, because I recorded this weeks ago at this point, if I did in fact use a worker for the middle of it or not. So yeah, we're just going to basically chat for a little bit while I'm replaying this footage and voicing it over, and just give you guys a little bit of a view of me working on the field and doing the planting, but also not necessarily going through all the trouble of editing a full video together or doing a lot of time lapses. I might even play a little music in the middle of this just because I can. But we're going to just see how everything goes first. So again, we're planting this field with canola because it's the right month for that in September, and this will be a good money crop to get us moving forward. And also, I do not need as many straw bales off of this field as I got the first time. It was just so much baling and so much hauling of those bales away that I didn't want to do a crop that was going to leave straw on this field. So that's kind of the onus for going with canola. Also, just the timing in the year is correct, and I want to rotate the fields a little bit as well. I think we did barley on the north field. Don't hold me to that, because like I said, it's been a couple of weeks since I recorded a Calmsden episode, so I haven't gone back to look at this, and honestly I recorded a lot of this footage at this point almost a month ago. I've really been working on the Erlengrot series and been working on the new series Riverview as well, so I haven't come back to Calmsden for a little while. I do have footage recorded up through, gosh, I want to say episode 9, or enough footage to get me through episode 9. I mapped out some episodes when I had kind of veered off this, and I had decided I had recorded enough footage to move forward with some other series. I liked it to work ahead a little bit, so I guess a little behind the scenes since we're chatting. Typically in like Erlengrot, I like to be 2 to 3 weeks ahead. So like this morning that I'm recording this, I actually released Erlengrot episode 16. And I'm now moving to 3 days a week for Erlengrot. So that series is now being uploaded on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And Riverview is taking the Monday-Friday slot, which leaves just Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now, Calmsden used to be my Saturday episode, but I've kind of gotten away from that in the recent past. So I'm thinking that if I get this recorded tonight, I should upload it on Wednesday, because I don't have anything going up on Wednesday. But I don't know if Calmsden will stay on Wednesdays or not. But I digress. I actually just released episode 16, but I have recorded for Erlengrot up through episode 23 at this point. So I was a full 3 weeks ahead on Sunday when we started this week, but I've actually released a Sunday and a Tuesday episode now. So those things have happened. And then we've also been working on those Riverview episodes as well, which I've released one of on Monday, and then the next one should come out on Friday. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I'm a little rambly right now, but that's kind of the point of these fireside chats, if you will, is me just kind of talking a little bit more about me and the process I'm going through, and the parts that I'm working on, and kind of what that looks like for me behind the scenes. So let me know how you guys feel about that. Like, do you enjoy getting to know a little bit more about me and kind of what my process is and what I'm doing, or do you guys just want to see more of the farming and hear less about the actual YouTubing, if that's a thing? So yeah, I just popped up the map there for a second. You could see I'm almost done with this, which would be the west side of the field, and we've done the north side already, and then eventually we'll get down there, and I think we do the south side last here. But again, I like to make these giant rectangles on these fields. It makes it so much easier for the worker to pick up if I decide to go that route. And if not, I at least have all this stuff done so that I can jump back in and easily map that out. So look, that completed the west side. North is done. East is done. So we'll probably go square off that south side before we get too terribly much farther into planting this field. So while I've got you guys here, I was thinking we could talk a little bit about something that's not farm sim related to, and just kind of expand that as well. Sorry for that pause. I was watching myself line up the south side of this, and again, I'm trying to hit that 90 degrees exactly on the compass, and that helps me square off and get a nice straight line here at the bottom, and that again helps with all the things related to having a worker do this later if I so choose to. And it is a little interesting with this diagonal that you see over here to the right along the tree line. We're essentially making a giant triangle on the field, so at some point in time we're double seeding either the corner or the long edge, and we're double seeding the overlap. So when you've got triangles like that, you just kind of have to do the best that you can with it, but it does, you know, that's the kind of thing that would catch one of the AI workers if we were to employ one here. They would get very confused by this. So I'm turning on a few lights because it is getting later and it's harder to see when you're in the shade of these trees, kind of the difference in the ground texture that the cedar makes. So sorry about that. I said I was going to talk about something different, and then I just veered right back into farm sim. So old habits. So yeah, I just thought, you know, like as you're trying to get to know me a little bit more, or as I'm doing one of these kind of chat episodes where I'm just sharing a little bit about more what I'm into. One of my other big interests outside of video games and trying to get this YouTube channel off the ground is I'm a big board game enthusiast. I'm gonna call it. Board games is one of my favorite pastimes, my favorite hobbies. One of the things that I really like to do. And it's one of the things that I do with friends from church. I have a pretty consistent Monday night board game group that we play every Monday night after the kids go to bed. So does lead for some late Monday nights and some very tired Tuesdays, but totally worth it. Has been one of my favorite things that I've done in the last several years. In fact, this group has been going since 2016. For the most part. Obviously, COVID came in, we had to take 6 months off for that, and there was a couple other family things that came up in the middle where various members have had to take 2-3 months off here and there, but ultimately we've been playing board games on Monday nights and Thursday nights for a little while. We switched to Thursdays for about a year when one of the guys had switched jobs, and that worked better for him, but then schedules changed again and we went back to Mondays. But that group has been great. It has been one of my the highlights of my week, and just a great way to build fellowship with other dudes from church, and also just to have a common thing that we share. And then in addition to that, I also play a ton of board games with my wife. We did something in 2021 called a 10 by 10, which is where you actually play 10 different board games 10 different times. So you play 100 board games over the course of the year. It's not quite a New Year's resolution, but just a sort of challenge we did. And it's through the Board Game Stats app. You can track your plays, and you can sync it with BGG Online, so you can track your collection there and your plays and your scores, so you can see things like win percentage and high scores and average scores and the amount of people you play with, and it breaks it out for like 2-player scores and 3-player scores and all those things if you want to get super analytical like I do sometimes over those things. So that was a really great thing that we did in 2021. We did do it, but we didn't finish our last board game until December 31st. So we did a really good job during the first half of 2021 because of COVID. But then, around August, our kids went back to school. We had kept them out of school in, 2020 through spring 2021. And then the numbers got a little bit better, so we sent them back to public school in fall of 2021. And as soon as school picked up, life picked up. Like, we were running around to different activities, and people had things to do, and we were just kind of out in public a lot more than we had been before, so we stopped playing board games for a few months. Not completely, but we had played a ton, and we were ahead on our challenge, and all of a sudden we weren't ahead on our challenge anymore. So, but it was a thing that I'm really proud that we did, and I had really enjoyed all that we had done. And I apologize for if I'm rambling a little bit or pausing funny. I was actually pulling it up on my phone to see which games were in that 10 by 10, so I could just kind of talk about them with you for a little bit. So and I like modern board games, I'm going to call it. It's not your Monopoly or Life or Tripoli or any of those kind of games. These are modern board games, I think, is the best term for it. Within that, there's all sorts of subgenres. We're a big fan of Euro games over here, which tend to be a little bit more economic and a little bit more focused on economy and building an efficient engine, and not really focused on too terribly much randomization or luck. So I don't tend to play a lot of games with dice in them. I like to play games that have strategy, and you have to react to what other players are doing within a certain set of guidelines or rules. So you have your estimation of what you can and cannot do on turn, and then you have to kind of fit that strategy into that. And there you go. Look at that. I actually just finished. Sorry, I'm going to pause talking about board games and go back to the farm sim, because that's kind of what I thought. We finished the field that we were planting, the rectangle, and I'm assuming we set it off on a worker, because now we've got our other tractor here, and we're going to run and grab some lime and finish lime in this field while we're letting that other field become planted. So, like I said, hopefully we'll see our tractor. No, I guess we didn't set it off. It's just sitting there. And we're cutting through our secret shortcut. So now that this is planted, we'll obviously... and I hit a tree. Anyway, but that is set up for a worker at some point in time. I don't think it's running up and down the field. I haven't seen him moving yet, so I think that we didn't start that worker, but we're just getting some lime for that other field. Maybe we'll finish it off a little bit later. So anyway, back to the board games. We had done our 10 by 10 in 2021 and really enjoyed that. That kind of took our board game hobby from a hobby to where I would call myself probably an enthusiast. I do have a pretty sizable board game collection, but not that big compared to some of my friends who have much bigger collections. And I do follow quite a few board game YouTubers as well, and they've got ridiculous collections, like hundreds and hundreds of games. I mean, we're in the 30s for board games. We got about 35 games, depending on how you count them and how you count expansions and things like that, but certainly not hundreds and hundreds of games. So you're probably asking yourself, Chuck, what games do you have? And, well, I'm going to tell you. Or at least I'm going to tell you what some of my favorite games are. And I'm not going to list off all the games that I have, because that would be a better video of me just walking around and showing you guys, if that's really what the point was. I'm just chatting about another one of my hobbies. But anyway, in our 10 by 10, in our 10 by 10, the 10 games that we played were Architects of the West Kingdom, which is a great game. Actually, a lot of the West Kingdom games are really good. This year in 2022, we're actually playing Paladins of the West Kingdom in our challenge this year. We played Castles of Burgundy, which is a classic. That one is a lot of dice, but there's still a pretty strict set of rules around how you use the dice and things you can do to modify the dice that help with the randomization. So still a really good game, and a shorter one, which is nice. We played Curious Cargo 10 times. That game is very different than the other games that we play. I believe it was by the same guy who did Pipeline, but on a much smaller scale, and it was a strictly two-player game, because my wife and I obviously play a lot of two-player games together. We did play Pandemic Legacy Season 1, 10 plays of that. We haven't actually finished that yet. Our final plays of that in December got us into August in the game, but we haven't. In that game, you play 12 games, because you play one a month, and then if you fail the month, you get to play it again. So you could theoretically play that game 24 times to get through it. It is a legacy game. Terraforming Mars was in our 10 by 10, and that is one of my wife's and I's favorite games. And I'm actually checking here. Our last game that we played to finish our 10 by 10 was Terraforming Mars, and it looks like we played it on Christmas Eve, not on New Year's Eve. So I had remembered that incorrectly. I apologize. We didn't wait till the last day of the year to finish it. We finished it on Christmas Eve. But that is one of our favorite games, and it's sort of the game that got my wife into board games. And it is one of our most decked out games as well. We've got the broken token for it. I've upgraded some pieces. I actually just recently got metal cubes for the money for that as well, which I really wanted for a while. I've got all 3D printed tiles for it, so like 30 or 40 forest tiles, the 9 oceans, like 22 or 24 cities, all the extra tiles, just everything 3D printed for that, so it looks a little bit better on the board than the cardboard pieces, although we played a lot with just the cardboard pieces before we got it decked out. We have the expansion map with Elysium and Hellas, the two sides of Mars as well, so that we have 3 different maps to play with, because we have the base map obviously that comes with the game, and then I have some fan-made corporations that were released on BGG and actually printed in Lithuania, so I call them the Lithuanian corporations, but so they're not official, but they were printed out of the country to avoid copyright laws, and then I bought them off Etsy and somebody shipped them to me. So anyway, like I said, that one's a little bit more decked out than a lot of our other games, but still a great one. We played Viticulture, the Tuscany Essential Edition. So Viticulture has a couple different maps as well, or not maps, but boards, and the Tuscany expansion board really changed how the game worked. It really moved a couple of things around and broke out the seasons in a different way and added a little mini map that you interact with, and so we never play base game anymore. We just use the Tuscany expansion, so we played 10 games of that. And then the big one, we played Tinner's Trail 10 times as well, which is a Martin Wallace game, which I highly recommend. It was a Kickstarter, actually, that I didn't get until, I want to say August. I got it at the end of August, it looks like, and we played our 10 games of that between August 29th and November 26th. That one's an auction game, and it's very Euro, because you're just literally picking up cubes and mining cubes and putting cubes on and making more mines and more cubes. But a great game. Highly recommended. And then the big one was Wingspan. We played Wingspan 30 times in 20. Well, actually, we played it more than 30 times, to be honest. But for our 10x10, we played it 30 times. We played base game Wingspan 10 times. We entered the European expansion as a separate game in the 10x10 and played that 10 times. And then we got the Oceanic expansion, and then we played that 10 times. So Wingspan is my other super decked out game, because obviously I have both expansions, but I got 3D printed birdhouses to replace your action cubes. I got the folded space for that rather than the broken token, which is foam core inserts for the box rather than the wooden ones, which makes it lighter to carry around. Upgraded a couple of other things in there as well, got sleeves for all the cards, and we have played a lot of Wingspan. I think full count between the three different versions, my wife and I played Wingspan 46 times in 2021. So we actually played well over 100 games, but only 100 of those games counted towards the 10x10. So those were the games that we played in our 10x10 in 2021, and was super excited about all of those. So that just kind of gives you a glimpse of the things that we're into and the things that we played. Like I said, our collection is only about 30 games, depending on how you count expansions. I've got some games that I haven't even played, some still in shrink wrap, some that I've opened and set up, but haven't actually gotten a chance to play, and there's other ones that I've gotten expansions for, or gotten broken tokens for, or folded spaces for, and just haven't seen as much table time compared to some of those other games. But to round out this video, I thought I would talk about my favorite all-time top 5 board games, in case any of you Farm Sim fans are also board game fans as well. So hang in there, and I will do that in just a second. And I'm back. Hopefully that musical interlude got you hyped up for my top 5 board games of all time. And this list obviously is ever-changing, ever-evolving as we get more games and we play more things and our tastes change and all of that. But I'm going to start at 5 and work my way up to number 1 because that sounds fun. So number 5 all time, I'm going to put a game that's a legacy game. For 1 to 6 players by Stonemaier Games, it is Charterstone. I really love this game. There's 12 games in the campaign. It's a legacy game, so you play all 12 games, and then at the end of that, you've created your own version of the map. And then you can keep playing after that if you want, but I never have. But I have played through the campaign itself 3 times. And yes, to play it again, you have to buy a new copy of the game. Did I say 3 times? I've played through it twice on a physical board. I also have the app on my iPad, and I've played through it about 3 times on there as well. But I just really love the game. It's worker placement, which I really like. It's the only legacy game on my top 5. Spoilers, I guess. But it's just a really great game. But it's kind of an event. You have to get people together who want to play it over and over again, and are willing to play the game all the way through. And it's also a little bit shorter. The games are, I don't know, 75 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on what's going on, and they're short because they have goals that you achieve towards the end, and things that you're trying to complete. So I don't know, I just like it because you sort of upgrade your character and your charter as you're going through it. And I just realized I don't have that much time left, so I can't sit here and tell you all about all of these games like I just did for Charterstone. But anyway, number 4 is Agricola. I really love Agricola. It never sees the table anymore, but it is the first heavy game that I got into. Very Euro, very feed your people or they're going to die. Very kind of strategy, do I have enough moves to get what I want done, and tons of replayability because of the intermediate and complex decks that you can shuffle in. Number 3 of the same sort of vein is Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was the first legit modern board game that I ever had, and I played it a lot, and I taught it even more. I taught it to everybody who came over to my house. I took it to all my family events, Christmases, Thanksgivings, New Year's Eves, whatever you want to call it. I've taught that game a ton of times. I've even played with my neighbors. So I could teach that game with my eyes shut, just because I've played it enough times. But that is one of my favorite games, and it really holds up. And the thing that I love about it is there's no dice, there's no randomization, there's no cards that change things. It is all, what did you do? What is the next person going to do? How are they going to react to what you did? So it's all high-level strategy because you have to decide what order you want to do things in, but yet in a very simple package. Because yeah, I mean, you can explain the game quickly and give somebody a strategy, and they can do that strategy and they can do well. But it's all about being flexible. So anyway, I love Puerto Rico. My copy is super well loved and beat up, and I'm proud of that. Number 2 is Wingspan. Like I said, we played it 46 times in 2021. I'm pretty sure that is the board game I have played the most at this point. And so I had to put it on the top 5. My wife loves it. I really love it. The artwork is great. It's also a Stonemaier game, not a legacy game though. But just the design is impeccable. What a great game. And then my number 1 all-time board game at this point is Terraforming Mars. Like I said, it is the game that got my wife into board games. It is a fully decked out game that I have, and I just really enjoy it. It does take us forever to play it, so we don't play it very much anymore because we don't have 3 hours because we have kids. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little trek into getting to know Chuck a little bit better and knowing about my board game obsession. I mean, enthusiasm, enthusiasts. Alright, well, anyway, I will catch you guys in Calmsden episode 6. Take care. Bye-bye.